Today we're talking about why you don't remember your past lives, but not only that, about how neuroscience backs up our position, because I'm sure you guys have heard me speak about why you don't remember your past lives before, but there are probably people new here, so we're going to do a quick recap as to why you don't remember your past lives and what it has to do with the brain as far as brain filter theory goes. But then we're going to look at new research in neuroscience that is very clearly backing up what we say. So as we look at this, let me give a quick recap as to why you don't remember your past lives. Now, I know if you've been following my work, you know this already, but there's probably a lot of new people here. So the reason why you don't remember your past lives is because your brain acts as a filtering, limiting, and conditioning mechanism on you as a mind. So what you are is a monadic mind, and you link to an avatar, a body, in order to experience, learn, and grow in the holos, the space-time dimension. And what your avatar does is it limits, filters, and conditions your mind. And the reason why it does this is because it evolved for the purpose of an evolutionary advantage. Now, to understand why, just as a quick thought experiment, I want you to think about the early stages of evolution and imagine this scenario. I'm not saying this scenario actually happened literally in the way that I'm describing it, but imagine that this happened. Imagine that there is some species, we'll call it species A. Imagine this species has access to all the different past unconscious lives that it has. It has all the information of its previous lives. It has the information of everything that's going on in the galaxy. It has information on, what's going across the universe, and it just all this influx of information. And so it's sitting there just sort of unconsciously processing all this information. And then you imagine another species, call it species B, and this species is the complete opposite. It's only focused on what's immediately around it, only on the information that its sense organs are given to it, only on what's right there within its environment. So what's going to happen? That creature, species B, is going to be able to easily eat and devour species A, because it's busy thinking about what, the electrons spin on, in the Andromeda system or whatever. And it's going to be eaten by species B, who is just focused on what's there, right there in front of it. So species A is an absolutely terrible avatar for adaptability and competition. Therefore, it's not going to be able to respond to predators. It's not going to be able to respond to prey, and it's not going to be able to respond to its environment. It's going to die. This species will very much go extinct, whereas species B, the one that is filtered and only concerned with its immediate surroundings and what's going on in the now, that is excellent for adaptability. That's excellent for surviving. It will continue to adapt. It will continue to survive. That way, it's going to be able to pass on the genetics to its offspring, and it will continue to evolve. So natural selection will select for the species that is developing a filtering system. And the ones that are unfiltered, they will die out, they will go extinct. So we have developed these avatars, and we have developed these filtering mechanism for survival. Your avatar, your body is not designed to tell you the truth about reality. It's designed so that you will survive. Now, evolution in Hyperianism is not just random, and it's not in Hyperianism, evolution is teleological, meaning it's purposeful and directed. It's going somewhere. It's progressing. Now, it seems like it's simply about survival and adaptation because in the early stages, survival is necessary. You have to be able to survive before you can progress. You're not going to be able to progress very much if you're dead. So evolution has brought us these avatars that have designed these avatars for us, which are designed to survive, which means they are designed to filter out all information that is not necessary to our survival. So it filters out things like our past lives. Not only does it filter out things like our past lives, it filters out things that are just inconsequential to you. For example, imagine if you remembered everything in just this life, you'd go insane. You don't remember every second of every day. No, of course not. You just remember the big moments. If you remembered every second of every day that occurred from your birth to now, you would be insane. You wouldn't be able to handle all this information. It would be an overload. You wouldn't be able to function. So in Hyperianism, this brain filter theory. This is the function of the brain and nervous system and avatar in general, is that it limits, conditions, and filters the mind. Now, we want to be able, now that we are conscious, and those of us who are hyper aware, we want to be able to now take evolution in our own hands, and we want to be able to, access all this content again. So that's one of, one thing that we can do in the future is learn to reconnect to the source, reconnect to this reservoir of the collective unconscious, and reconnect to things like past memories and whatnot, which not that can happen right now, but that is something that can be worked on. Now, so that's the general, real concise stance of Hyperianism. If you want to know more, I have a lot of videos on reincarnation. Just do a search on my channel, or reincarnation morgue or something like that. And also, just for those who don't know, I prefer to use the term relocalize instead of reincarnate, because avatars allow monadic minds to localize. But it's the same thing, incarnation, localization. It's just without the mystical connotation or religious connotation to it, because it has nothing to do with karma or any of that bullshit. It has to do with just evolving. So, but what I want to bring up to you now is new studies in neuroscience that are corroborating and showing that the brain is indeed a filtering mechanism, or at least evidence is showing that to be the case. So let's bring this up and take a look. Right here. So this article says, oh, hold on. I'm missing one moment here. I'm missing an article. Am I? Just a moment. All right, there we go. So, neuroscience, or let's say, keep forgetting things. Neuroscience says it might be a hidden brain advantage. Rather than being a bug, forgetting may be a functional feature of the brain. And then in futurism, neuroscientists say forgetting things may be an essential part of our brain function. So let's take a look at this here. We've all had moments. Is this showing up on sorry, for some reason this is not appearing correctly on my screen. Let me just bring that up to make sure it does. Okay, this now should hopefully be the correct thing. Keep forgetting things. Anyway, what I said before, and then we're taking a look here at this futurism article. So, we've all had moments of forgetfulness, and not infrequently, the act of forgetting about something can have a negative impact on our day, or even our lives. Some even consider being forgetful to be a sign of damage in the brain, particularly the area tasked with storing and retaining information. While this may be true in the case of memory disorders, Canadian neuroscientists from the University of Toronto propose that the typical moments of forgetfulness with most of us are familiar are actually the brain's way of making us smarter, and that those moments may even make our lives better. In a study published in the journal Neuron, researchers offered an alternative hypothesis as to why the brain purposefully works to forget information. Though not an entirely new field of study, the neurobiology of forgetting has been relatively unexamined. Their research found that the brain's ability to store huge amounts of information can often be hindered by keeping memories that may be irrelevant for our everyday existence. So you can see here that the brain's ability to store information, from their research, is saying that this ability of the brain can be hindered by storing unnecessary memories, irrelevant for our everyday existence. So if you can imagine that even storing memories for our current life would be a hindrance to our everyday existence, imagine having memories of your countless past lives. You haven't just had one or two past lives. You have most likely been on this evolutionary journey. Some monadic minds have varying degrees of how recently they've relocalized. But in general, you have had countless incarnations. So imagine, again, if it's just in a single lifetime that it will hinder the brain. Imagine if you had these memories. And this is really important to realize and understand, because a lot of critics will go, oh yeah, so if you've had past lives, how come you don't have memories of them? How come we don't understand? This is precisely why. So, in fact, I would argue that they're not just irrelevant, but they can be detrimental to living our daily lives. Richard said, information that isn't necessary for us to evolve and survive then isn't necessary for the brain to retain. This is exactly our position. This is what I just described to you. And then this is what they're saying right here. Information that isn't necessary for us to evolve and survive isn't necessary for the brain to retain. Exactly our position. Our memories ultimately are there to help us make decisions, to act in the world in an intelligent manner, Richards went on to explain. Evolution cares about whether or not you are an individual who's making appropriate decisions in the environment to maximize your chances of survival. So, researchers argue that forgetting is actually a function of memory. Ironic, right? But when you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense. When the goal of memory is to help you make intelligent decisions in a complex, changing world, then the best memory system will be a memory system that forgets some stuff. So a healthy, properly functioning memory system is one that does engage in some degree of forgetting. So the purpose of your mind and the purpose of your memory is so that you can have a functioning, healthy, everyday life. And memories can get in the way of this because they overload your mind. And so the memory system, as a function of the memory system, causes you to forget. Now, the same thing that happens just in this single lifetime happens across lifetimes. As I explained in the example of the two different species, one that had access to all this information, and then one that had access to very limited information that was just, segregated to just its individual awareness in the here and now. That's the species that's going to survive. That's the species that's going to propagate. The other one, it's going to die out and become extinct. And this is clearly why, obviously why, you don't have information from your past lives. It would be immensely burdensome. You would not be able to operate. Humans would have gone extinct, right? We would not exist. We would not be here right now if we had access to that kind of information. We would be eaten by wolves. So this was necessary for our evolution. Now, that's not to say that past life memories can't pop up from time to time. If you're doing past life regression, or having dreams, sometimes memories from past lives might bubble up. You're in the realm of the unconscious. There's a lot going on in there. It might bubble up, perhaps, especially if you've had some certain extremely memorable or traumatic experience in the past life, that might bubble up. Now, can you tell for sure that memory is that experience is a memory from a past life? You can't know for sure. The unconscious is a really chaotic place, but you may have a strong intuition that it could be possible. So much of Richard's work on memory and forgetfulness is thanks to his application of theories on artificial intelligence, AI, and how the brain learns. He said, in the world of AI, there's a phenomenon called overfitting, where a machine ends up storing so much information that it hinders its ability to make intelligent decisions. Now, this is really important because in Hyperianism, reality is this is a mathematical reality. So we don't behave exactly like an AI. Of course not. We are not AI. We are living. But there are some similarities with regard to operating according to what we might call algorithms or operating as a neural network, except we're not an artificial neural network. We are a monadic neural network. And the mental programs and algorithms that we contain are living archetypal programs. They are, also evolving as not their own separate consciousness, of course not. They're within us as mental programs, but they aren't just some like dead machine code. They're living mathematical energy in terms of frequency patterns. But you can see that they are patterns in general, and you can see that they're saying in artificial intelligence that when a machine ends up storing too much information, it hinders its ability to make intelligent decisions because of overfitting. So Richard hopes that understanding the neurobiology of forgetting will able to design AI systems capable of interacting with the world and making decisions the same way human beings do, Luckily, there are many studies currently focused on trying to make AI systems, or artificial neural networks, behave like human brains. One crucial aspect we're still working on is how to facilitate memory development in AI. By understanding the nuances of human memory, it may be possible to design AI systems that distinguish between information that's trivial and what's necessary for survival. So you can see it's really interesting here in that even in designing an AI program, they're considering trying to teach an AI certain information is necessary for survival, while certain information is just irrelevant and you can disregard it. So even us in designing an AI would be designing a system that entails forgetting within itself. And us, we weren't designed by anything. We are a product of teleological evolution, but the result is the same in that natural selection selects for the filtered organism, the organism that filters, modifies, and conditions the mind. And in fact, that's the whole point of incarnating in general, is to be able to have this localized experience rather than having an experience of everything at once. Because if you're experiencing everything at once, you're really experiencing nothing. And the whole point that we incarnate or localize into the holos is to have this localized experience in difference and in separateness to be able to interact with each other. And this goes to show why we forget our past lives. It would be silly to think that we would have access to our past life memories. So think about it. If we did have access to our past life memories, we wouldn't be here because we would have been extinct. We are here by virtue of the fact that we don't have memory of our past lives. So that's precisely why we lack memory of past lives. And so it's very, very silly for critics to say, well, if this is true, how come we don't remember our past lives? That's a very silly criticism, because if it were true that we had memories of our past lives, we would be extinct. We would not be here. So in this article here, it says forgetting things can be annoying. It can even be worrying. What was that colleague's name? What time is the appointment tomorrow? Was the vendor offering us 25% off 200 products or 20% off 250? Or even as you grow a bit older, am I forgetting things because my brain is slowing down due to aging? Today, we have some good and interesting news to share on this front. First of all, if you worry, stop. It's not likely to help in any event. But second, it turns out that forgetting things might be a neurological advantage. According to a new theory in the journal Nature Reviews Neuroscience, there are several key points. First, we have to remember that at any given moment, we're all exposed to far more stimuli than we could possibly pay attention to. Never mind remember accurately, even just seconds or minutes later. And that's another very important point. Your brain is literally filtering out much of the stimuli that you could be experiencing right now. For example, you're listening here to me talk right now. Are you conscious of what your big toe feels right now? Now you might be, because now you're focusing your attention to it, but previously not. You had no, conscious awareness of how your big toe was feeling. You have no, conscious awareness of many different things, many different stimuli that's going on right now to you, because your brain focuses and selects your attention. You as a monadic mind are being conditioned, limited, and filtered by the brain, and it is focusing you on the information that it is weighing as important. There are these different mathematical weights that are being applied of levels of importance to different things occurring. Here, listening to this information has been weighted as very high. What your big toe feels like is weighted very low. If suddenly, a rat bites your toe, that's going to get a lot more importance. What I'm saying will decrease in its weighted value, and the big toe and your fight or flight response will sympathetic nervous system and all that will be weighted as a much more higher priority to focus your attention on. So, forgetting some things, maybe most things, is a natural mechanism of the brain, without which it would be almost impossible to function in daily life. Finally, the brain has to promote access to specific memories, ideally the most useful ones. And again, you can imagine this as well, just going through all the different information and experiences of your past lives, you would be so inundated with information that's unnecessary. For example, if you spent a localization or a life cycle in the form of a spider, let's say, and now you exist as a human, the information that you have gained regarding web spinning, unless you're Spider-Man, is not going to be very, very helpful. And you can imagine all the different, types of acquired memories and patterns that you have acquired that are completely and totally irrelevant and would lead to just your absolute overloading and insanity if you had access to this all the time. Because that's the other thing, right? If you were to have access to your past lives, it wouldn't just be your past lives that you'd have access to. I mean, it would, but it would be extend all the way to not just human past lives, but it would extend to ridiculously redundant information like how to spin webs and things like that. You would be so overloaded, you would be completely catatonic, inoperable. So as a summary put forth by Trinity College in Dublin explained, rather than being a bug, forgetting may be a functional feature of the brain, allowing it to interact dynamically with the environment. Forgetting some memories can be beneficial, as this can lead to a more flexible behavior and better decision making. If memories were gained in circumstances that are not wholly relevant to the current environment, forgetting them can be a positive change that improves our well-being. In other words, our brains learn to forget, and therefore memories are never actually lost, but instead are simply made inaccessible, stored in the brain in a way that limits the ability to access them. And that's another important point, is that all your memories of past lives aren't deleted, they're not lost, they're stored away in your unconscious. They're stored. So they're just made inaccessible. There's a firewall up there blocking them. So they're still there within you as an eternal monadic mind. That information is still there. It's not deleted. It's not erased. It's just made inaccessible. So it's an important distinction, according to co-authors Dr. Tomas Ryan of the Trinity College Institute of Neuroscience in Dublin, and Dr. Paul Franklin of his place. And that one leads them to believe that this natural forgetting is reversible in certain circumstances. They also theorize that in disease states, such as people living with Alzheimer's disease, for example, these natural forgetting mechanisms are hijacked, which results in greatly reduced engram cell accessibility and pathological memory loss. So where does this leave you as someone living and working and leading today? I hope it leaves you with a combination of hope, wonder, and an affinity for practical recollection strategies, namely storing up your memory with checklists and calendars and simply double-checking small things. If I can make an analogy, long-distance runners don't bemoan the fact that they need hydration and fuel in order to reach their goals. They just find ways to carry or stash water and calories. And in an example that hits extremely close to home, creative but naturally disorganized people, if they're smart, don't simply live in chaos, they find systems to help them get organized. In my case, that actually meant hiring a professional organizer. Finally, if you find yourself worrying about memory, don't. Ryan and Franklin are correct. The answers are all in your head somewhere. You just need to learn how to access them. So, I hope you can see what these articles are pointing to, and these new research studies are precisely and obviously pointing to what we've been saying. They're not talking about past lives, but they're talking about the function of the brain as a limiting and filtering mechanism, reducing your memories so that you can function better for survivability and for pragmatic operations in your daily life. That's exactly our position. We also extend this across lifetimes, that it was evolutionarily developed, and so that in addition to blocking access to current life memories, it's also blocking access to past life memories. And of course, obviously that would be the case, because if it weren't the case, we would not be here. We would be extinct. Some creature would have easily devoured us who was more tuned to the world and this environment. So this is incredibly important, and I hope answers, because I get asked a lot of people want to know, if reincarnation is true, or as we prefer in Hyperianism, relocalization, if it is true, why don't I remember my past lives? This is precisely why. If you did, you wouldn't be here, you'd be dead. And this, though in a pragmatic way, is very helpful. Now that you know and understand that this is how the brain operates, you should make it a point to let your mind know what is important to you. And case in point, when it comes to, this is very prevalent to where it comes to dreams. People want to know sometimes, how can I have more vivid dreams? How can I have more memories of my dreams? The reason why that you don't remember your dreams is because your mind deems it as unimportant. Your dream content is not necessary to your daily life. So your mind erases the content of your dreams. So much so that when you wake up, even a slight movement, you can feel your dreams start slipping away. It does. So what you can do to have more dreams and have more vivid dreams is you need to tell your mind that this is important. And that's has to do with, like keeping a dream journal and something like that. What you're doing is you're literally telling your mind, by keeping a dream journal, this is important to me, and it should be retained in memory. The Hyperion source, by the way, just did an awesome live stream. They're a Hyperion channel. You should definitely subscribe to them. They just did a live stream yesterday discussing lucid dreaming. It was really good. Also talking about the worldwide Hyperion online learning experience class that they offer, which an enrollment is starting now. You should definitely check them out. That's the Hyperion source if you're interested in that. But I hope this has given you a great understanding as to, for one, in a useful way, how you can work with your brain to make sure that you are storing the memories and the information that you deem is important. Like, for example, if you deem this is important, make sure your mind knows this is important. Take notes. Make sure that it is firmly ingrained, that you're in your unconscious, that this is something important and you want to remember. Do this with everything that you want to remember. And then just on another level, I hope this answers precisely why you don't have access to memories of past lives, but they're not gone. They're just stored away, inaccessible, that can be uncovered and recovered. Oh, but one last thing, keep in mind that even though they can be uncovered and recovered, that is not something that we currently are able to do with ease. It takes a great amount of effort, and then one can't even be sure if they are actually past life memories or not, because it's very chaotic. So, my friends, I hope that you enjoyed that. Check out my other videos as well, and I'll see you next time. I want to give a big shout out to everyone that supports on Patreon, especially Trent, Cassidy, Renaissance Fairy, Michael, Evie, Alan, Angela, Brian, and John. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Everyone who supports on Patreon. If you enjoy my work, if you ever felt like you've learned something or gotten something from my videos, consider supporting on Patreon. You help me out, I can help you out, we can help the world out, and it's a feedback loop. So the link will pop up right over here. You'll get access to our weekly secret live streams, our hidden Discord server, the Citadel, and a lot more. We're having a secret live stream right after this. So thank you very much, my friends. I appreciate it.